Good evening, one and all. Good evening, Raveesh sir. From this session, we are going to discuss about different sections of tourism industry and how tour operations is done in that. So, in the first specialization, we have with us Mr. Raveesh Khullar to explain leisure tourism, tour operations in leisure tourism for us. Mr. Raveesh Khullar is working as a senior category manager in Pick Your Trail. He is a young and dynamic tourism professional with expertise in e-commerce market research, business development, channel management, and product development. He did his BSc from IHM Jaipur. Then he completed his PG in marketing and operation, and he also completed a certificate course in managerial and leadership effectiveness from IIM Indore. He worked in Thomas Cook as senior manager. Then he worked with TUI and Make My Trip as a deputy product manager. And before joining Pick Your Trail, he was working as category manager for Yatra and Go Ibido. His area of expertise is in contracting, business development, operations management, competition mapping, client service, and distribution network for products. With this introduction, I request Ravish sir to start his session.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be part of this great program. And I'm highly obliged to be in front of you guys and able to give a brief on what we have been doing over the years in leisure tourism as one of the segments for travel. Uh, I'll share a brief deck on this. Along with that, I have my very good friend, Mr. Vikas from DTORR, who will be assisting me on a brief questionnaire which we have developed uh, for this particular, you can say, interaction between us. I won't call it, I would not want to do it only one-way communication. I'll prefer a lot of questions either on chat or over the screen coming to me because obviously that will also enhance my understanding on how and what all need to be uh, speaking to each other in order to impart a better knowledge to our students or the future, I can say, travel professionals. Yep. So with that, if I can start sharing my screen, if everyone is good to go with it.
Sure, sir, please.
Yeah. We will be majorly talking about leisure tour operations. Uh, uh, to just give you a brief on this, I'll first move on to my next slide. Uh, just yeah. So we'll talk about what leisure tourism is all about. So when a particular person, there are three major points, but when a particular person or a group of people want to take a break from their day-to-day routine, that's when leisure tourism as an industry comes into picture. It's not only going and staying in a particular accommodation or a resort. It's also to enjoy the ambience, nature, or the you can say flora and fauna or the city life of that particular destination. And that's when and how the leisure tourism aspect comes into picture. Leisure tourism again can be divided into a lot of different segments. One is obviously your social tours, you have cultural tours, religious, family, sports, and new things which have come up is obviously adventure and millennial tourism. So a leisure tourism is basically when we or when you, along with your family, is planning a trip to come out of your monotony from your day-to-day routine or what you are doing, and you travel to a particular destination to enjoy, to be in that destination, to understand and to gain an experience of what that destination has to offer. That's when leisure tourism comes into picture. Um, we will be doing a bit of screen share between me and Vikas so that we all understand different aspects of it and we are able to generate a better interactive session. So I will do a stop here so that Vikas can do his screen share. Vikas?
Yes, Ravish,
Yeah.
hi. Is it visible?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So, along with the WebEx, I will request if most of the participants or if all of you can actually simultaneously log into menti.com.
Mentimeter.
No,
Yeah.
menti.com.
Menti.com.
Okay.
The URL is mentioned over here on the screen where Vikas or my cursor is. And then we have given you a code. On each slide, there will be a different code. We have given you a code and enter that particular code, which for this particular slide is 985934443. So what we have done is we have done one first question to build up the base for the presentation is what customer expects on a tour. So when we say tour over here, since we're talking about leisure tourism, we would want you guys to reply on what first thing comes in your mind when you think of a holiday or when you think of a leisure tourism with you, your family, or your friends, as and when you plan to. Because that will actually help us to build up the next uh, I can say not the slides basically, but yeah, the overall discussion which you plan to do. Yeah, the code is 985934443. See, yeah, happiness, explore, excitement. That's the I think one of the response which has come up. Punctuality of service providers, exactly. Um, a hassle-free experience too, which is where the service providers or we as an industry come into picture for the customers. Relaxation and rejuvenation, happiness is similar to that. Best experiences, value creation, to move away from the routine work. That's what we all already talked about. Experience something new, yes. So relaxation, satisfaction, move away from routine, memories, free leisure time with hassle-free service. Because you may need to scroll a bit down. I think there's one below free leisure time with hassle-free. There are 2, 3 things which have come up.
Okay, the participants need to go to menti.com. The
Menti.com.
link is given in the chat section, MENTI, and you'll be asked for a code. The code is 98593443, which is also mentioned in the chat. And there you have to answer these questions, not in this chat section.
Value for money, then we have new experience with new way. Necessary facilities and services, highly experienced and trained professionals in guiding and escorting tours. Personalized service, instructive and renewal. Relaxation, new experience, overall satisfaction. Yeah. So if you look at it, what customer expects from a tour is, if you look, is primarily to rejuvenate, to relax, to be satisfied on ground, and to have value for money. When you say value for money, most of the points get covered into it, which is primarily your service provider should be on time, your accommodation which is given should be up to the mark of what you have been paying for. Your tour guide should be again up to the standard or should meet the local requirement. So that's when the satisfaction comes. So your value for money and satisfaction can be clubbed together. Your relaxation, rejuvenation, happiness, new experience, exotic food, safety, security can be clubbed into a different bubble altogether. So if you look at all of us as a customer, when we plan a leisure tourism or when we plan a holiday with our family, we expect one is obviously to rejuvenate. Second, which has to be hassle free. Third, it has to be a value for money product. So that overall, when we come back from the holiday, we should have a great memory into our mind or maybe into our phones these days or on our social media platforms. So that's what the expectation actually comes into. Because moving into next.
Yeah, you want me to have another one? Yeah, Raveesh?
No, I think I'll be doing the next slide and then we
Yes.
come back to you
Yeah,
again. Yeah.
I will stop sharing.
Yes.
Thank you.
in leisure tourism, when we were answering, or when you guys were answering these questions, we actually divided into three major segments. When we as a product manager, when as an industry, we are planning a particular product for our customer. One is the genre, which is basically the target audience, the target group who is planning for a holiday, whether that particular genre comes into a customized holiday segment or it comes into a group holiday segment. So we need to define that particular product accordingly. So if I'm designing a group inclusive tour, I would need to make it that particular product in such a way that it answers multiple genres. It should be able to suffice to couples. It should be able to take families on board. It should, at one given point of time, allow senior citizen to travel. Because these are the three major segments, if you look either world over or within India, become the main target audience for a group inclusive tour. So that's when we are designing a tourism product, we always think of genre as a first. Basis these genre, you will have inclusions. You may have certain inclusions which are to be mandatory for all the three target group. One is obviously accommodation, second is the food, and third is the tours and transfers. So these three standard inclusions will be there. The add-on or the optional tours can vary from destination to destination. Me as a particular customer would like to do a bungee. Somebody else as a customer may like to do a normal candlelight dinner. Somebody else would just want to experience a city on its own or on the steps. So these inclusions can differ from each target audience, but the core inclusion, which is of accommodation, tours and transfers, and your meals, becomes the major inclusion. The third is the destination offering. There are certain destinations which are primarily only meant for honeymooners, or only meant for families, or only meant for senior citizens historically. But during COVID, we have realized the ups and downs of these destinations has changed the demographic and the target audience. If you look at before COVID, a lot of destinations like Maldives, like Mauritius, like Bali was considered more for couples, or more for honeymooners, being very precise. And a lot of bookings for these destinations used to be from these two genres. Singapore, for that matter, Dubai, Europe, was considered for family, or for not exactly senior citizen, but people who are towards the age of retirement or before retirement, and they would want to travel in a group tour. So Europe precisely will fall into a group tour category from India as a destination. So what destination offers also matters a lot when it comes to doing a tourism product element. Any questions till this 3 points? Maybe on chat, or you want to speak about it? Because then again, we will move to Vikas to do a bit of back and forth and present another.
No, sir. No
slide.
questions so far.
Perfect. Vikas, over to you for another round. See, we can see Expo. This is another good product as an example, which we will talk in a bit. So we have given you a brief. So when you look into the inclusion, so the question over here for all of us is, what do we see in the package inclusion list of tour packages? If you guys would have seen in the past, or while planning your own holiday, obviously, I have given you the overall picture. One is your accommodation, second is your tours and transfers, third is your meals. But there's certain things which a different customer will view it differently. So we just want to understand when you plan your own holiday, or when you are, I can say, planning a trip with your family or your friends, what inclusions do you see? So again, over here, the code remains the same as again. You easily need to be logged into menti.com throughout the presentation. And you just need to, in this again slide, you need to punch in 9859344 as the code, and answer your travel entry, ticket, accommodation, service, meal plan, because we may need to remove the 9859. It's coming up front. Cost of leisure activity, exactly. Accommodation we have shared. Visa fees, exactly. Very right. Very right. Service meal plan, all inclusive, day-to-day itinerary, exactly. Cost of leisure activities, special activities, yeah, sightseeing places. If you look at the major component remains your airfare, which as of now nobody has spoken about it. So one is obviously your airfare, which becomes very integral and important part, whether you're traveling domestic or international. I will not say airfare only for uh, travel, but even if you travel domestic, one is your transportation when it comes to either through flight, train, or for that matter on your own car, or maybe taking a local transport or a bus. So one is obviously how you are moving from one destination to another destination, or you're moving from hub city to the destination. That becomes your major integral part. The second comes obviously your accommodation. Third is your tours and transfers, which are very important because for, as I mentioned, for every genre, you will have a different product altogether. In a group inclusive tour, you may need to add on all these important packages or important activities or tours, but certain tours you may need to keep optional for the choice of the customer. Giving a brief example, like if you are in Switzerland, there are two major popular hills or mountains. One is Matterhorn, another is Jungfrau, and then you have Mount Atlas. You can include only one of them in your package because the cost of each tour or each activity is very high. But the others you can keep optional. So that's how you actually define your inclusion list. The third important part is visas when you're traveling outside. Though, if you all are aware, the Indian passport has become strong right now. It has improved over the years, and I think we are now visa free or visa on arrival or visa gratis, how we mentioned, to close to 70 odd countries when we are traveling. So that has again enhanced the value of the passport. So in your package inclusion, your visa fee, depending upon where you are traveling, will vary, and on basis of that your documentation for that particular visa will vary. So your package inclusions, when we define or design that, we need to be really clear in the face of the customer by telling them that these are all is included in the package, the extra is optional, and this is what they have to pay, or which is not included at all in the package. For example, before they used to travel, before the COVID, travel insurance was not mandatory. But now, due to COVID, a lot of countries are only accepting visa or only accepting tourists if they are carrying a valid travel insurance which covers COVID or COVID related hospitalization on ground. So if you look at it with over the time, things has enhanced, product has to be improved. So that's why the package inclusions will now have a COVID related insurance included. So that's how we cover the inclusion list. Charles, I'll move on to my presentation now. So in leisure tour operations, we majorly define into four categories. One is obviously post sales. I'm not talking about sales right now because obviously a seller does it part. Uh, the interaction with the customer happens, the booking happens, and the booking form gets signed. That's a very standard process in all the organizations. But on the leisure tour operations at the back end, we divide it into four categories. One is obviously the standard, which is post sales, which happens as soon as the sale is done. Then we divide into is FIT operations, which is free individual traveler or customized holiday traveler, which we call it. Then you have GIT, which is group inclusive tours, or you can say a group travel when it happens. Then you have the new concept of DIY holidays or DIY operations. DIY is basically do it yourself. In do it yourself, what happens? A customer is actually doing the booking as well as the operations on their own. So before we move into the other slides, uh, because if we can present the questionnaire again here, I'll just
Hello, sir. I do have one question, sir. Hello.
Yes, नवीन जी बताइए. नवीन जी. Okay. Yes, the code has changed, participants. So new code is 90277-054.
Yeah, modes to connect with the client while planning the trip. Mail, yes. I'm email, telephone, okay, through mail and phone. Advertisement, social media, okay. Website, Insta. Yeah, so Insta, social media, your Facebook, Twitter comes into one platform. We call them as digital medium or social media. Okay, print media. So yes, if you look at print media or your advertisement or social media is basically at the stage of planning the trip. When not actually planning, it is before planning as well. It is basically to entice a customer to plan a trip. Okay, it is basically to give a story in the mind of the customer. It is to basically ignite the customer that it's the time for you now to think of a holiday again. That's when your social media platforms or your print media or any kind of marketing tool comes into picture. But when we say modes to connect with the client while planning the trip is how you basically interact with the customer when you're planning a trip for them. One is obviously phone. Another is face to face, which is we call it retail sales. Then you have email. I still can't see the new more. Yeah, phone, WhatsApp, email. Exactly. That's what I was looking for. Over the last, I can say 2.5 or 3 years, WhatsApp or Telegram as a platform has increased their print into the communication market with the customer. If you'll see, a lot of these products are offering business accounts these days so that you can interact with the customer. Yes, in the past, we have to be in a black and white kind of a scenario when emails used to come into place. But nowadays, a lot of customers actually ask you quotation directly on WhatsApp or on Telegram, whatever they're using, or sometimes, being very honest, on Hangouts as a chat option. Yes, they can read an email, but they always ask for a bullet point or the highlights of the product along with the pricing on the WhatsApp. Because everyone is using some form of, I can say, not social media, but some kind of interactive media right now in the form of either Telegram or WhatsApp on day-to-day basis. Um, so that's how the new mode of communication with the customer has evolved over the years. If I look at way back in 2005, when I started my career, we used to actually call customers from the landline. Then mobile phones happened. Then the email evolved over the time to interact with the customer. But now with call centers coming into picture in 2007 and 8, which was launched by Make My Trip, booking your holiday through a customer care was never in was never around because way back everything used to happen a lot offline. So customer care or call centers came into picture, and now it's directly or communication through WhatsApp, which has picked up in the last 2-3 years. So yep, moving on to my next slide, I'll share is the post sales one. So your interaction with customers post the booking happens is call to customer, email to customer, app notification has also picked up. My bad, I missed sharing that earlier. WhatsApp and Telegram communication. So when we call it post sales, what happens as a standard policy or standard scenario which has come up? As soon as the booking moves from the sales bucket to the post sales bucket, within 24 hours, there is a call which goes to the customer by, as I mentioned, by the customer care executive. So every big organization like Yatra, Make My Trip, Pick Your Trail, TUI, or even Thomas Cook have started building their own post-sales team either in-house or as an outsourced unit. So the bucket or the file basically moves from sales to post-sales. The call to customer happens. The executive who is over the call explains the things to the customer on what they have booked when it comes to the accommodation name, the kind of package, duration of the package, what all is included in the package, whether it includes airfare, then the kind of sightseeing depending upon the destination, what is the visa requirement, what is the visa fee, and the total amount which they need to pay as being finalized by the sales and the customer. Along with that, again, within 24 hours, an email goes to the customer to give us the confirmation on, yes, these are things which were discussed with between them and the sales, between them and the post-sales executive, and to take what we call it in our notification is a black and white thing. I think there's some query or chat.
Yes, sir. There is a question.
Yeah.
Do-it-yourself mode is a kind of tailor-made package done by the client itself.
Yes, it is, but I will come to it over the next slide. So do-it-yourself is actually very right. Is a customized holiday. Again, everything managed by the customer on their own.
Sir, do it yourself is any special segment of accommodation required for that? Like it is meant for the service apartments or like the condominium, something like that.
Pardon, if you can repeat, do-it-yourself.
So like do it yourself is a special segment of accommodation required, like the service apartments, etc. Something like that, where
Not necessary, not only service apartment or different kind of accommodation. It can be either a hotel or it can be an Airbnb product, depending upon choice of the customer, or it can be a hostel or a hostel kind of an accommodation. And it also not only involves accommodation, it involves a lot of tours and transfers being booked and you can say executed by the customer on own. So once we come to do it yourself, I'll share a brief on how do it yourself has been expanding or is increasing its online footprint in Indian market as well. So
okay,
moving
sure.
back to our current slide, I hope I can move back to my current slide, Naveen ji, Naveen sir.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So the third segment which has come up well is app notification. Though this is still not being used completely for a holiday package or a leisure package, but if you're booking standalone hotel or you're booking a standalone flight to a particular destination as of now, you get app notification on when you should reach the airport. Then obviously you get add-on since you're traveling to a particular destination. As example, if you're traveling to Leh Ladakh or to Andaman or to Kerala, which are primarily holiday destinations right now, uh, on the app notification, since with the help of AI or big data, the organizations are able to understand when is the customer flight. So as and when customer lands into that particular destination, these days we have started doing segmented or personalized notifications as well to the customer, telling them, sir, you are traveling to Leh Ladakh on this date. Would you want to book your tours or hotel in Leh Ladakh, as an example, if a customer has only booked the flight, or if a customer has booked only a hotel to a particular destination, we add on. So would you want to book activity in that particular location, or a ferry from maybe Neil Island to Port Blair or Port Blair to any other location in the Andamans? As an example, if you're going to Dubai, so as soon as a customer books a flight to Dubai, like we saw or we know that right now Expo 2020 is going on in Dubai. So we at Yatra were doing push notifications to the customer, telling them, since you're booking your flight to Dubai, why don't you see Expo 2020? So if you look at it, it's another way of interacting with the customer who is traveling to a particular destination. So right now, this app notification is very strong when it comes to flights and hotels, but it is also picking up for holiday as a segment. The third and the last is WhatsApp or Telegram communication. Sorry, the fourth and the last is WhatsApp and Telegram. Being very honest, I'm not a fan of, or I can say a lot of people are fan of using WhatsApp on regular basis. But from a customer point of view, in the last 2.5 years, we have seen a 80 to 90% shift from emails to WhatsApp from the customer perspective. A lot of our customers would want my sales agent or my sales staff to send the code on the WhatsApp as well, either in a form of a PDF or in a form of a Word file, or maybe as a text document to the customer, so that it becomes in one single screen. It becomes very simple for the customer to see the inclusions, to see the price, and to understand value for money, and either say yes or no for booking. And being very honest, we have actually taken bookings on WhatsApp, and then we have sent a mail to the customer that, sir, okay, your services are blocked on time limit. You would need to pay on the payment link. Even the payment link has started going on WhatsApp now. So that's how technology is playing a very important role from the business side while interacting with the customer on planning a leisure holiday. Moving on to Vikas. We will be doing this with you. All sorry for this, but yeah, this is primarily to make it more interactive.
Yes, let me again remind all the participants that you have to open another, maybe go to your browser and just type www.menti.com. The code is still the same. No, the code has changed.
It is 7903 0319. So in this question, everyone, we would need to, depending upon the understanding, we need to put a percentage on how much you think is the accommodation, how much you think. So suppose your package cost is, as an example, 100 rupees. So how much of that goes into airfare, how much of that goes into accommodation, then into tour and transfers, and then into meals. So because for every destination, there will be a, you can say, a plus and minus when it comes to accommodation or airfare. But yeah, that's how primarily we need to understand from you all on what component incurs the maximum cost, or not the maximum, at least the percentage wise, what we understand on the component costing. I believe we have close to 20 odd participants for today. So
no, we have many participants actually. Right now we have 126 people joined in.
Oh, okay. I was not. Yes, now I can see the whole list.
Okay, I request all the participants to just log into www.menti.com, enter this code, and answer the questions, so that we'll get a general idea what the people are thinking.
As you see the results, most of us have answered accommodation as the major component of the tour cost, then airfare, and then tours and transfers, means. On third and fourth, I will actually say we are very, very correct, because on third and fourth, we generally don't spend much because the cost of transportation or tours in most of the destination is very low. Whereas your overall in the package, your accommodation and airfare plays a very crucial role, as well as the cost incurred for accommodation and airfare is always on a higher side as compared to the tours and the meals. But there are certain destinations, I will share those with you on a brief note, how over there actually the cost of tours and transfers is more than accommodation in certain cities, but not always. So your airfare and accommodation plays a very important role. I will say, depending upon the destination, whether it's a short haul or a long haul. When we say short haul, it's basically the destinations which fall under Southeast Asia and Middle East, which is primarily your Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Mauritius, Maldives, Dubai, Oman, Qatar, Bahrain, and the Middle East sector. They all come into short haul as a destination. So over here, the cost of airfare is a bit low as compared to, not as compared to accommodation, or is at par with accommodation for a good 5-nighter holiday. That's what we generally call a short haul product to be. But when it comes to long haul as a destination, which is traveling to US, Europe, Latin America, Canada, bit, I will not say Russia in this picture, but yeah, Australia for that matter, New Zealand. In that particular scenario, your airfare becomes higher than the accommodation cost because they are long haul flights. So the cost of a flight or the cost of airfare becomes higher in that particular scenario. And that's when these destinations becomes a bit on the higher side when it comes to airfare being involved. There are certain destinations where actually activities are on a higher side as compared to accommodation, not overall package per se, but if you look at on a per night basis. So there are certain activities in Australia which are close to $300 or $350, whereas the accommodation is not more than $100, $150 when I talk about 3-star or a 4-star accommodation in the city center. So in certain cities, obviously, when we see these while designing the product, we make sure to understand what kind of accommodation needs to be provided to the customer, so that the cost of the tours and transfers is also justified to the customer when it comes to the on-ground arrangement. As I mentioned, airfare again, even the airfare in domestic market when it comes to short haul or a long haul, depending upon your destination and your hub, keeps on varying. If you look at Andaman, we all call it standardly as a long haul destination because your flight from Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, for that matter, is not a direct flight, is via either Chennai or via Calcutta. So the airfare becomes on a bit higher side when it comes to accommodation on ground. So, and then the tour and transfers becomes on a very lower side. Similarly, if you're traveling into Kerala, your accommodation and your airfare actually play a role which is similar to each other. The cost of airfare and the cost of accommodation for your package duration comes out to more or less same. If you look at Goa, your airfare is on a bit higher side and the accommodation becomes on a very, very economical side. Similarly, for Leh Ladakh, your airfare is on a lower side, whereas your accommodation for the duration, along with tours and transfers cost, when added into, becomes more than the cost of airfare. So the percentage share of these components keep on varying from destination to destination, but the airfare and accommodation takes the major chunk of it, and then these two segments, which is tour and transfers and meals, take the another chunk out of that. So when a customer is paying approximately, as an example, 100 rupees for a particular package, your accommodation airfare will take close to 70% of the cost, depending upon destination to destination, and your tour transfers with meals will come into cost of 30%. Depending upon, when we talk about, these are basic meals when they're looking at, not exotic sit down meals throughout their tour. And when we call it tours and transport over here, it's basically seat in coach transportation for the popular tours on ground, not the exotic tours which a customer would want to do in a customized holiday. Yeah. Vikas, next slide is. So from post sales, any doubts still here, everyone? We have covered description of leisure tourism. We have covered the elements which are important when it comes to the genre, inclusions, and destination what is offering. I've covered the 4 important parts of operations and what post sales has to cover. Any doubts still here? So in yeah.
Sir, is it only for tourism businesses, or all the businesses nowadays are following this particular system?
Sorry, which one, sir?
Just the last slide. Yes,
The WhatsApp?
post sales.
See, post-sales.
I mean, yeah, this process, entire process, is it followed by all the businesses or only by tourism businesses?
So I will actually say in this scenario, the e-commerce legends, which is like Amazon or Flipkart or Snapdeal, actually had this process in pipeline, or they defined that process. And eventually, since the OTAs, what we have seen, followed, because OTAs actually consider them part of technology, part of e-commerce, and the part of the travel as well. So the OTAs actually took this from the e-commerce on the first 3 points, I will say. WhatsApp came as an add-on to everyone in the current scenario, but call to customer, email, and app notification became really relevant by the OTAs, and they took it from the you can say e-commerce side of the businesses. If you look at as a simple example, Amazon, if you search anything, or on Myntra, if you search anything, you actually get a notification if you have only searched and not bought it. So you get a notification that, okay, there is a discount going on, you can buy it now. Or even if you have bought it, then they actually ask you for a feedback as well after, or how was your purchase experience, or how was your delivery experience by their executive. So similar way, even in travel, or I will actually say more majorly OTAs defined this segment and understood on how the customer escalation or customer communication should happen uh, at the first level itself, in order to avoid any challenges on ground. So your delivery should be what customer should enjoy. Uh, your whatever challenges or whatever questions customer has before they travel should be answered beforehand itself.
Thank you, sir.
So in FIT operations, a lot of things actually depends upon the hotel, the kind of accommodation customer has taken. So most of the scenarios, customer escalation can increase. There's one question I missed seeing that. So sorry, in the presentation screen. There is one question which has come up, Dr. Rohit, if you can't see it on my screen. Yeah. Customer escalation can increase the price also? No. Customer escalation, it can only increase the price if a customer was promised for something and was offered something else. One is that. Or at the time of post-sales call, customer wants to upgrade any particular thing. Maybe a hotel upgradation from 3 to 4 or 4 to 5. Maybe an upgradation in the tours and transfers from a seat-in coach tour to a private tour. That it can. Or if sales had offered something else at the time of booking, and while at the to the customer, and while at the back end when they had booked the thing, they may have wrongly booked it, or they would have asked customer that post sales will take care of it. So in that scenario, we call it outliers. The price will increase, but in standard 95 to I can say 98%, the price will remain the same. It's only in the outlier as a scenario the price may increase because of one or two escalation if it may happen. Yeah. So coming to FIT operations, we have something defined into hotel reconfirmation. A lot of us as a customer think that as soon as the booking happens, the seller at the back end books the hotel and the vouchers are shared. It generally doesn't happen that way. What happens, as soon as the customer books with a particular organization in an FIT scenario, a lot of things would have gone back and forth at the time of quotation and then at the time of booking. So once the booking is done, the sales or the sales side will share the complete booking details with the post sales, and the post sales has to see whether the hotel has been booked and reconfirmed. Because we may be using either an offline supplier or an online supplier. That's when I mentioned in the fourth point over here as DMC/bed banks. So when we say DMC, most of them are offline, and then bed banks are majorly online. So we have to do a hotel reconfirmation. And generally most of these reconfirmation need to be done by paying the full hotel amount to the supplier or to the hotel itself. So that's how, when we are designing our payment policy or cancellation policy for FIT bookings, we make sure that these hotel reconfirmation amount is taken care of. The second comes is the tours and transfers. We actually need to figure out that these tours and transfers are as per the date of what itinerary has been shared with the customer, because it's an FIT product. So in a customized holiday, a lot of mismatch happens when on ground for a Dubai, a seat in coach tour, which only runs on a Tuesday and a Thursday, as an example, is offered to a customer on a Wednesday. So in that particular scenario, the operations need to figure out, or the sales need to figure out, before booking that particular service for the customer, that this particular tour and transfers need to be booked on that day only. As an example, a Dubai city tour on Friday is not operational, or a city tour of Abu Dhabi on Friday is not operational. So suppose a customer who lands on Thursday into Dubai or Abu Dhabi, and if we offer them a particular of these tours of city tour of Dubai or Abu Dhabi on Friday, then it becomes an escalation. So to avoid that escalation, by designing the product and while booking the services, we need to make sure that the tour and transfers are booked as per the on-ground operation. Similar to this, as an example, into maybe Indonesia, a certain product may not be operational in the evening because of high tides, okay, which is basically your, you can call it the standard water activities which are done on the Nusa Dua or on the Seminyak beach, which is majorly doing the paragliding, the butterfly, and maybe the tube ride or the banana ride. They can't be done in the evening, or they can't be done early morning. So that's why while booking the tours and transfers, we need to make sure that the customer is well aware of. Similar to this scenario is a transfer which for Maldives. If you look at most of the resort in Maldives, either use speedboat or they use seaplane as a transfer. So while moving from Malé Airport to the resort, a seaplane or a speedboat cannot be operational after 6 o'clock in the evening or 7 o'clock in the evening, depending upon the location of the resort. So again, while booking these particular things, we need to make sure the flight which is being booked for the customer should be in sync with the tours and transfers on ground. It can't happen that on ground customer reaches and your transfers are not available for that particular day. Imagine the escalation that will come. Imagine the, again, what we call it, the issue or the stigma what customer will face in his mind, thinking I have booked with a particular travel agent or a travel company, thinking that they will offer me best of the services, and now on the day of arrival they have given me a hiccup or they have given me a first blunder. So we need to make sure that these requests or these operational things are managed on time. The third comes is ad hoc request. What happens in ad hoc is sometimes most of the customers, like honeymooners or family who are traveling or senior citizens, they would have certain requests or the other on ground to be taken care of. Most of the requests for a honeymooner will be a honeymoon, we can say a honeymoon cake or a honeymoon candlelight dinner, or maybe a honeymoon decoration in the room. We need to figure out in which particular accommodation if that can be given or not. Like in most of the resorts in Maldives, a honeymoon freebie is easily available. But on a complimentary basis, an X kind of service is available for add-on services like candlelight dinner, or maybe going an extra way and playing, doing a photography shoot or a photographer shoot is required. So all these requests can be done, but then it involves a cost to it. So we need to make sure if there is a cost involved, we need to inform that to the customer beforehand. And if it's complimentary, then we need to inform what all is complimentary. Because in a room decor, what will be done in a room decor should be informed to the customer. It should not happen that customer thinks the whole room will be decorated with either balloons or with petals, or will have chocolate or a candle lit in the room. No, every hotel or every resort has its own definition of a honeymoon freebie. So they may only decorate the bed, they may only decorate the, or they may only give you a wine bottle, or they may only give you a small cake to enjoy. So these ad hoc requests should be answered on time and properly, either at the time of booking or once the file moves from sales to post sales, so that on ground issues are avoided. Any doubts still here?
Rajashri ma'am, can you explain your question? Rajashri
Here
Bhargava?
tour means sightseeing activities. Yeah.
Actually, we just
Over
wanted
here tour actually means sightseeing and activities, which you're right.
yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So within tourism, we call day-to-day tours or day-to-day activities. We still call them tours uh, from the offline mode. But yeah, it has eventually changed into either activities or sightseeing, which a customer does. More of us have started calling it activities nowadays, not even tours or sightseeing. So each destination has its own activities, and then activities are attached to with or without transfers. The fourth is the DMC or the bed banks. So in FIT operations, I will say most of us or all organizations actually use either a particular DMC, which manages the whole file on ground, or we divide it into between a bed bank and a activity aggregator. Um, Example for bed bank will be like a GTA or a hotel bed, the backend of booking.com, uh, or bed bank will have something which is like booking.com, Expedia backend. Then you have hotel beds, which is slash GTA. Then we also have something known as TBO, which is an Indian organization named as Travel Boutique Online. So all these bed banks combined together have their own inventory of hotel rooms, which they promote for that particular destination. And for activities, you have activities aggregator, which provide you only the activities. When we say only the activity, in that scenario, most of the cases, they will not provide you transfers. Again, for the transfers, we either need to rely on somebody, which is a DMC. Why DMC? Somebody has mentioned on the chat. Yes, you are right. It is actually known as Destination Management Company. DMC means Destination Management Companies, which is perfectly fine, which is actually right. Yeah, I should have actually used the word Destination Management Company. So these DMCs provide you end-to-end service from hotel of booking to transfers from airport to the hotel to booking sightseeing tickets or the activity tickets, and even providing transfers for these particular activities. So what happens when you use a DMC? In most of the cases, or I'll say in 99.99%, you're sorted, because but you have taken a particular file and you have handed over that whole on-ground management to a particular organization, which charges a bit of management fee and works for you. In bed bank scenario, it's basically you as an organization need to book and reconfirm the services what customer is looking forward for. So in a bed bank, you actually get a time limit to reconfirm the services of the hotel, of the tours. As of now, most of these bed banks or online aggregators are not able to provide transfers, but in certain countries like in Europe, or they are able to provide URail, or they are able to provide maybe one-way transfers, like GTA is able to do that. They are able to provide seat and coach transfers in most of the European destinations. Similarly, Travel Bulls, which is a Thailand and a Hong Kong-based DMC slash bed bank, is able to provide tours and transfers or sightseeing and transfers in the destination. But otherwise, it's majorly DMCs who are able to provide you an end-to-end, you can say, product or a service for the customer. I think this.
Sir, you have muted your mic.
Automatically goes.
Yeah, now it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think as soon as I move to chat, it automatically goes into mute. So the question is, what is the main core scope for activity aggregator? So the main scope, if I'll give you an example in two scenarios for this. There are activity aggregator who will only do the activity part of it, like managing the booking of the sightseeing or that particular activity. If in certain scenarios they may be able to provide you transfers basis if that particular activity needs a transfer or that activity is providing a transfer. But in another scenario, they are basically playing on economies of scale for that buying proposition of that activity. So, as an example, Philophilia, which is a very popular name in Indian market, is a B2C aggregator for domestic, I can say, activities. But they also have certain activities where they are able to provide transfers. Either they have built up that transfers with the activity aggregator, or the activity itself is providing that transfer. So what happens when we go to Philophilia, we book that particular activity. Either we will get that activity standalone ticket, or we will get with transfers. So that transfer, the Philophilia is booking on ground either through a help of a vendor, which is the transport aggregator, or the activity is providing them. But there's a scenario which is Singapore based or a European based company. Singapore one is known as Be My Guest. It's a B2B aggregator for activities. They actually buy only tickets of all the activities in Southeast Asia, in Oceania, which is Australia, New Zealand, and then they buy activities tickets, only tickets in Middle East, and they sell it to B2B, like they sell it to partners like us, or they sell it to small agents or travel agents in each city, or they can sell it to bigger organizations. But they only play on the economies of scale of buying or pre-buying these tickets. So as a small travel agent, I can't buy 100,000 tickets for a month, as an example. Whereas these activity aggregators buy 100,000 tickets, they get it at a discounted price, and then they sell it through an API with technology companies like MakeMyTrip, ClearTrip, Yatra, or any other OTAs, or they sell it to a small-time B2B agent through their portal or through their B2B portal, wherein they need to log in and book that particular ticket. So that's how these activity aggregators are able to develop or have a scope of working on economies of scale. I hope I answered the question. What is the main scope? Any licensing required for them? As in, I need to understand licensing for activity or as an activity aggregator. Naveen sir.
Okay. Actually, these questions are sent to you privately, so
Okay.
I'm not able to see them.
No. So Naveen sir is asking any licensing required for them. So are they asking for an activity as a license, or they are asking for a license for an activity aggregator? So depending upon the I can say law of the land or of the state, you may need a certain license for activity. That's for sure. If I look at doing a bungee in Rishikesh or maybe doing a paragliding in Birbiling, I'm sure we all need a license from the state authorities. But for an activity aggregator in India, I've not seen any license, because you are just uh, selling somebody else's product. So you actually are becoming a middleman in the middle. Yeah. So you actually become a middleman, or you just become a platform wherein a customer is able to see that activity and book that particular activity through your platform. The next question
Sir,
which has come up.
it could be also for service providers or vendors, something like that.
Sorry, sir.
Sir, it could be also like the service providers or something like vendors.
No, as an activity aggregator, you don't need a license. You become a license as a you actually register your organization either as an OTA or a travel company, and you pay the GST as per the standard GST which comes into activity, whether it's 5% or 18%. But if you look at it, there is uh, for any licensing as such, you don't need as an activity aggregator. There is one more. Could you explain the concept of, okay, so economies of scale is basically when you do a pre-purchase and you do that pre-purchase in a bulk, so that a particular product, as an example, can be for 100 rupees in B2C. For B2B in a market, it can be 95. But when you go to that particular activity operator, as an example, you go to, if I look at very basic example of Expo 2020, which is very popular right now, or maybe Dubai Park and Resorts, which is in Dubai, or Singapore as Universal Studios. Example, their ticket cost is 100 rupees in the B2C market. If when a customer directly buys through their platform, either online or going over the counter, to a B2B market, which is, or to a B2B agent, they are selling it at 95, because obviously B2B agent does their own product and will not sell only ticket in the market, and will be building a product around it and sell it to the customer. That's the price for B2B is at 95. Whereas aggregators or bulk buyers or economy of scale buyers will buy 100,000 tickets in advance. Though they may not pay for all those tickets 100,000 at one go, they will pay a certain amount of 20-30% as an advance. But those 100,000 tickets are owned by those is owned by that particular aggregators, which can be like Thilophilia, Get Your Guide, which is from Europe, or Whiter, which is from US, or Be My Guest, which is from Singapore. So these aggregators will buy in bulk. They will buy it at a cost of 90, and then they can sell it to anyone in the open market, either to a travel agent or to companies. We are also travel agent, or to companies like us, or they can't go actually B2C because they're when you buy so much in bulk, you can only sell it in B2B as a segment, or through API, which they provide to tech companies like ClearTrip, Yatra, Make My Trip, wherein they provide the technology to us and the customer buys from our platform, wherein we also get our margin and they also are able to earn their margin out of it. So that's how the economy of scale works into. I hope I answered that question, Abhishek.
Yes.
We have one more question, which is paying guest rooms also comes under bed banks for consumers? In certain scenarios, most bed banks are only using, I can say, hotels, or I can say bedroom accommodation, which is like a 2-bedroom accommodation or a 3-bedroom accommodation. They are not putting paying guests onto their platform as of now. But paying guests has got its own platform, which is in the name of Airbnb, which has promoted these paying guests world over. Zostel is one such brand which is really popular from Europe, has come into India, or Hostler, which has come from them into India. So these homestays or these guest rooms are now getting listed onto these platforms, Airbnb, Zostel, Hostler, and are selling their product. But bed banks are majorly selling only hotels or condos, or I can say accommodation, which is like fully furnished accommodation.
Service
in
apartments.
certain selected countries.
Service apartments.
Yeah, service apartments. Very rightly said, service apartments. We actually call them 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom accommodation, which is very popular, not for Indian customer, but very popular for Middle East customers when they travel within Middle East with their families. So you will see a lot of service accommodation available in Middle East as a concept. So another question which has come on homestays. So homestays is very small part of leisure travel when it comes to booking through a travel agent, or booking through you can say through a portal for that matter. Homestays are popular when it comes to every state has its own limitation or own guidelines on homestays, because most of the states are able to provide what you call it is basically your you can say help or assistance to these particular. I hope I'm audible enough. I've changed my.
Yes, it's fine, sir.
Yeah. So they provide certain assistance to these homestays depending upon the state, but there's certain limitations. The one is obviously on the pricing of these homestays, each state has its own limitation on a homestay price. Then obviously on number of rooms you can have in a homestay, that is another limitation. Third is the host or the owner of the house should be staying in the same accommodation where the homestay is. So suppose you have a homestay, you have a 5 bedroom or a 6 bedroom homestay in Rishikesh or in Himachal Pradesh, but the owner should be staying somewhere within the same property. So if you have 2 floors and your upper floor has 6 rooms and your ground floor has 3 rooms, so on the ground floor you should be staying, and your upper floor or first floor or second floor, whichever has 3 4 rooms, can become a homestay. So each homestay has its own policy of governance by the state, by the law of the land, or by the state law. So I can only give you a brief. On the service side, they need to offer very basic. One is the accommodation. The second is the basic toiletries, and obviously a towel and a blanket to cover in the night. So that's what basically comes into homestay. The GST regulation for homestay is obviously lower as compared to a hotel. Think till if your homestay is costing not more than 1,000 room a night, you don't fall under GST category at all. If you are above, or if you're touching, if you're more than 1,000 and up to 2,500, I think then you come into a picture of 5%. But if you're more than 2,500 or maybe more than 5,000, then you need to pay 12 or 18% as a GST. So again, it keeps on varying from state to state. But homestays has picked up really well in the Indian market, especially during COVID in the last 2 years. One is on the staycation product, which was very popular not only for us, I believe for other partners in the same segment like Make My Trip, Pick Your Trail, Yatra, for that matter. One thing was very, very strong because a lot of us, since we were working from home, we wanted to move out and work from something out of our standard home. So we went out and started working from hills or near the beach or into a different city altogether, depending upon our choice. So it picked up really well. Second, homestays are majorly done by one is youngsters. The second is by millennials, which is the new term which has come up. Not very popular with family travelers because it's one accommodation and very basic, can depend upon. If anyone wish to open a homestay, do they have to take license or they can open by own? See, for homestay, you don't need to take a license as such. But you would need, if you register with the state government, then you get certain benefits from the state government while operating a homestay, and it's always good because these benefits are not only financial but also on the what do you call it, on the product side as well, on what kind of homestay it should be, and what you would still need a license when it comes to from a fire department, and which will eventually need a license from the state government. So it's highly recommended to check with the law of the land if you need a license. But for 1 or 2 bedrooms, you don't need to. But if you want to take it on a bigger scale, a license is highly recommended. The homestay and paying guest accommodation. Okay, so a homestay is basically I can't say they both are same because a PG can be for a longer duration. Homestay can be for a 1 night or 2 night. Because if you look at there are a lot of PGs in paying guest or PGs accommodation available in Gurgaon, which is very much used by the working individuals. So since they can't go, or since they can't afford a own house to themselves, they actually take a PG accommodation. They stay in that accommodation, and that PG accommodation has a choice to take it with meal or without meal. And PG accommodation is majorly shared. In one room, you can have 2 or 3 beds, which is being shared by unknown people. Whereas in a homestay, that particular room belongs to you, and you can book a homestay for 1 night or 2 nights, or maybe for a longer duration as per your choice. But for paying guests, they generally take it, not a booking, I will say, but they generally do accommodation for at least a month. And even the person who wants to stay in a PG would want to stay for a longer duration. Okay, I hope I answered the paying guest and homestay as a difference. Coming to the next question is some light on concept of staycations. So staycations came into picture during the first wave of COVID, or I can say after the first wave of COVID, in wherein a lot of people were doing vacations or used to do vacations, but since due to lockdown, they were not able to travel for shorter duration of time, like for a week or for 10 days, and they were not able to go and stay in that particular location just for a holiday because one, they were working. So we came into a concept of staycation wherein you can actually work from those locations. We spoke to certain hotels or certain guest houses or certain homestays wherein we checked with them the kind of facility which is available. One, obviously, since most of them for staycations is majorly used by working individuals, so we checked if the Wi-Fi is available. We checked on the electricity part. We checked on the food which is available, and that's when we signed up the staycations product, wherein the need of the customer, which is basic in current scenario, is electricity, Wi-Fi for the work or the internet for the work, and the food is answered. And that's when we developed a product wherein, depending upon the budget of the customer, different offerings were given from 1,000 to 10,000 room a night where a customer can stay and gets all these things included in the package itself. So that's when we made a concept of staycation for the customers to use. Um, the other question is TVO offers air tickets, accommodation, and sightseeing, but no transfer option for FIT. What are the platform where I can reach for transfers? So TVO also offers you FITs. If you look at in their sightseeing, they will have option of booking with tickets, with transfers or without transfers. But it again depends upon destination, as I mentioned earlier. You may get transfers for certain, like for Dubai, for Singapore, they may be able to provide you sightseeing with transfers. But for Europe as a destination, they may not be able to provide you uh, transfers. So depending upon destination to destination, there are different platforms which can be used. Uh, and that's why we say for each destination, the vendors cannot be same. So for every different destination, the vendor will differ from one to another. Then there is a question, can you clear the concept of couch surfing? I am not sure about the couch surfing, being very honest, because if what I see, couch surfing is a concept wherein a customer comes from another country or another region, comes and stays with you, doesn't pay for the accommodation, but doesn't pay for the accommodation, and you show them around is that particular uh, yeah, that will be helpful if somebody is an active member. I used to do couch surfing when I was young, so maybe I can ask Vikas to answer that.
Thank you, Ravish. So,
Yeah.
couch surfing is, I think it's one of the oldest platform, which is the US-based company, and what they offered when the travel was evolving among the youngsters in Europe and US. So, this concept is mostly the concept where you host a person without charging any accommodation fees, also the food. So, you are actually hosting somebody who is traveling from abroad or in your own country, and making their arrangement free of cost. So he or she stays with you. You share a place, you share food, and if he has a time, the host has a time. Host can take you around and pick you up from airport. Whatever he can do. So it's more a kind of organized community, and there is always a the check on the identity. So there was some cases happened in different countries, fraud cases. So what they have done, they have refined the process and then check the address, check the identity of the person, and then person needs to vouch or give a reference that this person I stayed is genuine person to stay, and then you can make your arrangement. It's very good and kind of a friendly platform where you can get a lot of good people around and you can travel around the world. I have personally experienced and used couchsurfing. I travel a lot, around 12 countries. I have used couchsurfing, host as a people to be with them and travel along with them. So India, it's a common, although there are some negative image also in India. because we have all friends and relatives, every city, every states kind of, but it's still it has been misused sometime, or but there is a mixed review in India. But internationally, it's very good and very good platform. I really recommend you make a really good friend, cultural exchange, language exchange, work exchange. A lot of things happens over the couch surfing, meetings. So thank you. This is my personal experience I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thanks, Vikas. Just a minute. Yeah. So couch surfing we have answered. So what is the reason of maximum number of resort, condominium, villa type hotel in UAE? Of maximum number of resort. No. So the reason I'm not sure about the resort or condo or villa. And what is the reason? The majorly they use service apartment because they have big families. So that's why most of the travelers who are from Middle East and within Middle East, they prefer having a kitchen attached to itself so that they can cook their own food. And they because being a bigger family, they have more space to them. Difference between condo and timeshare. Condo is basically a society or an apartment. Timeshare, I'm being very honest, I seriously need to check on that. So, yes, show the
Was not
feedback
picked up.
form.
The concept of timeshare was not really picked up in the Indian market. It was
Okay.
like you have a resort or a place at a destination, and then you have to invest in that, and then you can in a year, a week or so, you have to book, and you can use that property for that entire week.
Oh, so
And
you're talking about something like Sterling or Club Mahindra here?
yes, exactly, Club Mahindra.
Okay. So, yeah, then I can give you a brief. See, condos are, I think what by condominium we mean the condos or the societies. By timeshare, it's basically something like Club Mahindra where they have multiple customers, but the accommodation is very limited. So they give them the concept of using that particular property as per their own choice, but again, depending upon the availability. So yeah, I suppose timeshare is there. Sterling, Club Mahindra, and I think Ozone and couple of two, three new timeshare products came during COVID, but I have not seen all of them alive right now. But yeah, Club Mahindra has been really strong. Sterling has lost his, I can say, a bit of market share during COVID, but with Club Mahindra, they have actually grown. Uh, so that's what timeshare is all about. There is one question on feedback form. I didn't get that.
It's for me.
Sorry.
That is for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So TBO, there is a question. TBO is basically travel boutique online. They are you can say they are online DMC, or they are similar to any OTA, but they only deal in B2B. They are not for B2C market. It's a B2B portal which is used by a lot of travel agents to book domestic or international hotels, activities, tours, and transfers. TBO recently acquired two major organizations which are very strong in Mauritius and Maldives. One is named as Island Hopper, and another is which is Island Hopper was very strong in market when it comes to North India from as a agent base, and they have also acquired Gemini, which is very strong DMC or a bed bank for not a bed bank but a DMC for Maldives. Is timeshare? Yeah, timeshare still exists. Yep, Club Mahindra, and they've actually grown. That's what I mentioned. Club Mahindra has grown its bookings or customer base in these last 2 years. Being very honest, when I was with Yatra before Pick Your Trail, even we launched a very small or a very budget product of timeshare named as Escapes by Yatra. But yeah, for us, it didn't went well that well into the market, whereas Club Mahindra is still growing, is going strong. And I think they have taken up Siddharth Malhotra as one of their brand ambassador as well. See, Island Hopper, and the second is Gemini Holidays, so or Gemini Vacations. So that's how TVO became strong. Even during COVID, they bought two big organizations. One was just before COVID, and a Gemini one was during the COVID. Vikas, over to you for the quiz or the activity. So since there was a question on the feedback form, we thought we just incorporate that over here as well, making life a bit easy for Dr. Rohit as well. But yeah, this is from the customer perspective. So we would just want to understand from the I can say participants or my team members here that is customer feedback after the tour important? And important, yes, no, but I would actually want to understand from you guys why and how it is important, and for what level of segment it should be important. Should we define it for a certain level of customers, or should we keep it open for all? Uh, and what all should we actually capture out of that particular feedback? So I think it's yes being the clear winner. There is no and maybe. So I can see nobody's answering on no and maybe as of now. And even on the chat, we can see everyone is, yeah, especially post tour. Especially post tour. Yeah. So the code for this one is 902777054. So yes, customer feedback is important. Especially on a holiday product, it is very, very important. Maybe on a flight or a hotel product, it is not important, because in a flight or a hotel product, you are using just one single service, which is using flight from one segment to another, or one destination or one city to another. But even airlines or even flights have actually started taking the feedback from the customers on the experience. Hotels take their own feedback on ground, or maybe they send a feedback form later on to the customer's email ID. But from a holiday perspective, it is very, very important. Whether you are on a group holiday or on an FIT holiday, it is important because it actually helps us to understand what customer is looking forward for, whether the product which we have designed is in sync with what customer was looking at. One is that. What enhancement should be done, or what inclusions should be done or taken out from the product which were not as per the customer choice. So it helps us to understand how the itinerary flow should be very, very strongly when it comes to a group inclusive tour. From a FIT perspective, it majorly comes into the visa, because the hotel was anyway selected by the customer. But on ground tours and transfers, whether they are on time or not, so the feedback becomes really important for us to generate. So that 2-3 questions, yes, to understand the quality of service provided exactly to customer, scope of improvement, target market better. Yes, Mr. Vishal, you're actually right on all these 3 segments, and that's what we at product level do when we take these feedback from the customer. Not very much serious while filling feedback form. I will come to this point, Mr. Sahu, because you're very, very right. But at Yatra, we did a small campaign to entice that and to make sure that the feedback form is shared. And not only us, I'm sure a lot of OTAs would have done it when it comes to this particular scenario. Then it says feedback is the way to perfection. I can't still say perfection, but yes, it feedback gives you a way to improvement. That's for sure, because every customer has its own choice, value for money, expectation, and the overall concept of a holiday changes from one customer to another customer. So when it comes to feedback form, what at Yatra we did was, when we used to send a feedback email from our official ID to the customer. And we actually used to mention, I know you're very right, most of the customers are not serious or they don't fill the feedback form. We actually, for our group tours, we actually used to map it, and we used to send an email to customer to share the experience and to rate us on different services. What we used to understand after, so for a particular group tour of a Europe or for a Russia, if there are 20 people who have traveled on ground and there are 10 bookings, so obviously we will only send 10 emails to the main team leader and who will share the feedback. We used to align those feedback onto a bucket. One was accommodation, another was tours and transfers, another was flight, another was meals. So we used to understand from each customer where there was a lacking in our service or where there is a scope of improvement. And for every feedback we used to we used to give them an e-cash of 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, so that one, obviously they should fill the form. But that case, I'm not sure whether they're serious or not, but they are at least filling the form. But eventually, when I am sending for same group, which as an example, like 15th May departure to Russia, and I had 50 people, so which gives me 25 bookings as an example. So I've sent 25 emails and I've got 25 responses. So from each response, we were able to do it a bucket, wherein we were able to understand where exactly we were lacking and which customer has given us a serious feedback. There will be some outliers which we need to understand, who would have given us just vague answers. But we actually devised it in such a way that for that particular departure, we figured out whether there was a challenge in accommodation or tours and transfers and which customer was giving a serious feedback or not. Though the e-cash was given to every customer, it was not based on their seriousness. It was to make them sure that they actually give us a feedback. That's why the e-cash thing was enticed. And then with that particular bucket, we used to improve our product either for that next departure onwards or next month, because we used to do it on as soon as the departure gets over, as soon as the customer is back. So once you return, so suppose you are traveling on 15th May and you come back on 21st May back to India. On 22nd of May, the email will go to you and we will send you 3 reminders also. So not only we are sending the mail once, but till the time we don't get your feedback, we are sending you 3 reminders on 3 different days to share the feedback with us. So once the feedback is done or captured, then we used to work on our improvement of the product. Is any reward is offered, they will give only positive feedback? No, nothing like that. So we never used to inform on if they are rewarding. We will just tell them, share your feedback and you get automatically 1,000 e-cash in your wallet, which you can use. While returning from the tour is also a way to take honest feedback. Very right, Mr. Rahul. This is generally done by a lot of group operating companies, wherein GITs are very popular. Not to say that, but Thomas Cook, SOTC, which is very good in group individual tours, or sorry, group inclusive tours. They actually take a lot video feedback on ground and they actually post it on social media right away. Not only that, I will come to on how the feedback is also improved on tour with one slight add-on onto this. Not slight, but just one point. There's one question of feedback from Ms. Amrita. As usual, people are least interested to fill up the feedback form unless they have an issue. What is your suggestion as what should be the inclusions which should be easier to fill and would make less time as well? So, Ms. Amrita, we actually used a very basic 3-pager, you can say, 3-pager feedback form. And it, instead of scales, it had smileys. Okay, so 3 smileys. One was sad means sad. Okay, a flat will mean a normal, a flat smiley, and a happy smiley will make an understand that the customer enjoyed and the customer was happy on ground. So rather than taking the scale of 1 to 10, having multiple slides, asking a customer to fill a form, like to write in the open text, we defined it into 3 different segments. One was post booking. Okay, how was the experience as soon as the file moved from sales to post sales? How was their experience with my executive, whether they were able to assist properly? Then the second was on ground. On ground, we just mentioned accommodation, tours or activities and transfers, meals, and if we are giving any particular add-on inclusion, that's it. And third was generally for flights or any, I can say majorly was for flights and yeah, and tour guide, if anything wants to be added on their front. So we used to do that, get it captured, and we were sorted. So not to have a lengthy form of 5 to 8 pages, try to be in as low as possible. 3 to maximum 5 is okay, but try to be in 3. in each slide should not be more than 3 to 5 questions, not more than five, very, very precisely, because more than five will eventually disturb will eventually lead to low, you can say low filling of the form. Then coming to what most of us also did in group tours is we actually started providing Wi-Fi in the coaches, especially Europe. So it actually helped us because when we were doing any activities on the coach, uh, most of the customers started using Facebook Live or social media live pages on Instagram, and they were posting it on from the tour itself. And we asked them to tag the organization which they were traveling with. So I did it in my previous organization. Like when you're traveling on a group tour, the customer is making their own Facebook Live or making their own videos and posting them on social media. So it actually enhanced, which you will write like taking video feedback. So that video feedback was live on ground, and simultaneously, as soon as the tagging happened, we used to make that particular feedback live on our page itself, so that the followers are able to see also the next departures which are coming. The customer understand, okay, the service is not that bad, or if there's something which is really bad and we need to work out, we work out then and there itself for that particular group which is already on the ground. So that's how these things helped us in improving our on-ground operations and service. I'll present the screen again. Then it comes to GIT operations. Uh, so in GIT operations, your major, as a contributor, or your major point which needs to be understood is the itinerary flow. Uh, just give me a minute. By itinerary flow, what we mean is the itinerary should be in such a manner wherein the customer has the highlight of the tour at least at three places. One is obviously on arrival, second is during the middle of the tour, and the third is as soon as or a night prior to the checkout and flying back to India or flying back to their home. So most of the gala dinners, if you look at, are always planned on the second last or on the last day or on the last night in that particular location. So suppose you are supposed to come back from Europe to India on 20th, your gala dinner is generally will be done on 19th. You're coming back from Andaman or Leh Ladakh on a group tour, your gala dinner will be done on 19th if you're returning on 20th. So itinerary flow should be in such a manner that throughout the day, one, it should not be hectic. It should be able to do a justice on the inclusions of that particular day. Third, it should give a time for meals for the customers to enjoy that properly. I know it will be very quick for certain tours, but that's the way it is, because if you're traveling to Europe and in 14 days you're covering 14 countries, though you're only covering major cities, but you're actually covering minimum 14 cities or 14 countries in one flow. Obviously, your itinerary flow will be very quick and you may not be able to have a great product on ground, but a lot of Indians actually travel on these group tours. Your tour manager and man on spot is very, very important in group operations. If your tour manager doesn't know the locality or doesn't know the city or doesn't know the areas or doesn't know the history of that particular location, uh, that tour manager may not be a local guide, but should have a brief or understanding of that particular city to answer the questions of the customer on ground. Something very basic: where I can go and do the shopping, what are the good nightlife places, where I can go and have a meal if I don't want to have an Indian meal. Uh, what are the different activities which one can do in that particular city? So if you're using a tour manager or you're using a man on spot, that particular person should be able to give all these things heads up to the customer then and there itself. Though a lot of us use, you can say, dashboard or small emailers or pamphlets which we send it to the customers, but on a group tour, a customer may not be carrying these particular things, though they have Google or they can search it on any social media platforms these days. But if you are using a tour manager, they should know about it. In GIT, you need to include meals. Why? Your breakfast has to be included. You may skip the lunch, but you should try to include dinners, because a customer who is traveling with you throughout the day would want to have a good either an Indian or a local meal and would not want to search for it. Including that particular and including it properly makes a lot of difference. Then coming to visas, wherever the visas involved, we need to make sure the documentation, because for each country, a documentation will vary, whether you are traveling to Australia or to Europe. So your documentation has to be in place, because if your visa gets rejected, the customer will come back to you as an organization and blame on you for visa getting rejected. But if you have taken and you have told the documentation right upfront, then there is no challenge on the ground. Then you have ad hoc services requests, which I've already mentioned in FIT operations also. Like I'm traveling on my honeymoon trip, or I'm traveling on my 25th birthday celebration, or I'm traveling with my family as a first timer. So what all can be done? So all these ad hoc request services, if they can be provided complimentary, they should be, and they should be informed. But wherever the price is involved, we need to make sure that we inform that upfront to the customer about the pricing. Any doubts? I know I would have run a bit fast on these slides, but if you look at the itinerary flow, and the tour manager is the very important aspect of it. Visas play a role when it comes to Europe, especially on the documentation part. So on the operations bit, the operations staff who is in the office need to make sure proper forms are being sent. Um, it should not happen that you have old files of a particular visa form and you are sending that to the customer, whereas the new form has some other thing in place. So we need to make sure all these things are up to dated while we are sending it to the customer, the visa rules and visa forms. Now,
No, sir.
okay. Guys, do we have a thing, the whole thing now or after the slide?
We can have it now.
I think let's do this one after the slide. Changes in the customer behavior while planning a tour. Yep. Yeah. So moving on to next slide is the DIY operations. So what we call DIY is basically do it yourself, or it's similar to what card booking process is. So if you look at, a lot of technology has been coming into play, especially for the youngsters, or the new generation, millennials, and beyond them, uh, are doing, or want to do everything on their own. They don't need an assistance from one or any of the travel agents, or they may not need to book up complete holiday product at one go. They would want to do the on ground activities as per their own time, which is basically the leisure time, and they would want to do these either through an app or locally as per their choice. So for DIY operations, the basic thing is customer plans, it views, books, and executes their own holiday by selecting their own products. They will select their own flight, hotel, tours, and transfers. They will just book it on that particular platform, and they would want to enjoy that particular own holiday once they are on the ground, depending upon what they have booked and what they want to book as per the time available to them. So for this, on the operations front, uh, since there may not be any operation person who will be involved as soon as the customer books it, but we need to make sure the content which is going on that particular platform, because most of these DIY is completely online. One, it's similar to a card booking process wherein you select particular things, with wherein you select these particular items as you select your products either on Flipkart or Amazon or any other e-commerce website, and they directly go into your cart, and then you choose the final price and you book them. So the content, which is the description of that particular product, the pricing of that particular product, should be correct. The timing and duration. Suppose on any given day in Singapore, a customer wants to do Singapore city tour and a full day at Universal. Since these two tours cannot be combined together, so the system, that's where the point number three, system and the API driven things should inform customer then and there itself that the half day Singapore city tour and a full day of Universal Studios cannot be combined with each other at all. So it should prompt and it should not allow customer to book it. Half day Singapore city tour, along with night safari, or along with Jurong Bird Park, or along with anything which is in the evening after the lunch, can be done, should be allowed by the system to be booked. Otherwise, it should not. Similarly, in Europe, since you're traveling from one city to another city, in DIY, majorly you use URail. So suppose you're traveling from Belgium to Amsterdam, or maybe Amsterdam to Paris. So system should be able to enable you in such a way that if you're traveling from Amsterdam to Paris and you're reaching Paris at 1500 hours, and the next tour is at 4 o'clock or 1600 hours, it should not allow you to book it because you would need to check into your hotel and then you need to get ready for your 1600 hours tour and you have a very less time. So your check-in happens at around 1500 hours. So the next tour should be allowed, will be like either 1700 hours or maybe 1800 hours on that particular day to be allowed and booked. So these three important things, which is appropriate content with the description of what that particular thing is all about, what are the timings, the duration, along with the pricing, should be correct. And when the system drives it through API, it should be able to capture the right activity on that particular right day. It should not allow the two different activities on one day, which cannot be done at any given point of time. The fourth thing, which is very important, is the review and ratings. Even we all do that when we book anything or we are doing anything on any e-commerce. We always do how many stars, like while doing how many stars of that particular hotel. Okay, if this particular activity is good for families, then what is the rating done by families? If this particular, you can say, restaurant is good for a family or for a honeymooner or for a couple or for a senior citizen, or what kind of food they offer. So the review and rating should be correctly shown on your system. Whether that thing is coming from the on-ground, you can say the on-ground support team, or it is coming from your online aggregator, which is example in this case can be for that particular activity can be My Guest, Get Your Guide, Whiter, or TripAdvisor when it comes to restaurants, or Lonely Planet when it comes to certain excursions. The last one is on-ground support. So on-ground support can be provided and cannot be provided. It becomes into two. I will not say it is very, very clean and clear. So most of these aggregators or most of these backend suppliers have one on-ground support available with us. Okay, they make sure that for any on-ground escalation, instead of customer calling you and you calling that particular supplier, there should be a toll-free number, or we need to use such a vendor which has an on-ground support, so that if customer has any escalation, they call that particular number, which is toll-free or on WhatsApp, and the solution is provided then and there itself. Rather than customer trying to reach to us, the OTAs or the travel partners in India, and then we speak to that particular supplier, and then we inform the customer, so now you have to do this. Instead of that, if your vendor, whether it's online or an offline in DIY backend system, should have an on-ground support, so that for any escalation on ground, the situation can be handled then and there itself. That's where DIY is the new way of traveling, or is the new way of booking and experiencing and traveling the on-ground thing. Just a minute. Yeah. So before this, we end. Because if you can now present your screen. Any questions? Let me just check on the chat. Otherwise. There is on PPT. I will share it with Rohit sir, and I'm sure he can share with you all.
Thank you, sir.
Because if you can, I think we are any which is through here. Because
just a minute, Raveesh, just give me
Yeah, I'm stop
Give me
sharing my
a
screen.
second. Give me a second. You can take a questions, Ravish. I'm just opening the window. It's just shut automatically. So
Okay.
you can take a.
Rohit sir, any doubts or any questions from the team?
No. You have already answered all the questions.
No. I'm
Room
highly
space.
obliged for giving me this opportunity, being very honest.
No. It's been. You can see there are so many feedbacks coming up. I will also share the final feedback form with you
Okay.
once all the responses are collected.
So, so
Okay. So participants, if you have any questions about anything, yes, was indeed a. Okay, there is one question by
yeah.
Anita. Yeah.
Uh, I can't comment on it right now, whether DIY will overthrow. See, if we look at it, when OTAs came into picture, being very honest, I was part of Thomas Cook in 2005, and we were completely offline. When OTAs came into picture in 2007, 8 into an Indian market, firstly with Make My Trip, then I say Go Ibibo, Clear Trip, Yatra, they all started coming into picture. Uh, though they changed the way of travel, they eased out the way of doing the business of booking flights or booking hotels. But if you still look at it, a lot of customers are not booking complete holiday online right now with Make My Trip or with Yatra or with Clear Trip. In this also, we actually call it is there's a format which is known as view online but book offline, or which is basically you drop a lead, you will see a multiple products or multiple packages. You will drop a lead, and then at the time of booking, customers are still not booking online. They are booking either through a call center or an assistant channel, or offline through us, through Thomas Cook or Yatra or Make My Trip for that matter. So what happens is both the business are still existing in the market. And we actually thought of that a lot of customers will move from group tours to doing customized holidays. But if you look at Europe, is currently very wisely and very widely done on a group tour, because in that particular value for money, you do 14 cities in 14 days at a price of 1,50,000 per person, which is mind blowing. And um, Thomas Cook does close to 50,000 customers every year on that particular format only to Europe. And in an FIT format, only to Thailand, a particular organization does close to 100,000 customers. So both these OTAs and offline existed. So if we look at DIY, it won't overthrow as of now. It may happen that it will also assist travel agents in doing a DIY for the customer then and there itself. Because we understand a lot of customer may not would be at ease of using something like a travel related product, because it's a service. We need to understand, we pay upfront an X amount, but we get that particular service on ground. So as a customer, we still would want to have some phase to our booking. So DIY and travel agent, I believe, will coexist. A lot of customers may go to travel agents to get the price advantage of DIY, wherein travel agent will book it on the backend portal. That's what I think, the strategies which will be adopted by a lot of travel agents going future.
Sir, I think a similar kind of situation came a few years back when all the airlines refused to give any commission to the travel agents. At that time,
Yeah,
everybody was
yeah,
like, "Okay, we are finished, and the entire travel industry is not going to survive." But yes, after that, when travel agents started charging the customers as a consultancy or service charge,
yeah.
still they're going on.
You're very right. Not only customer, not only us. I have a very uh, similar example to this. Is even internally, we never used to charge convenience fees from our customers. Any OTA will never used to charge a convenience fee. If you remember, Book My Show used to charge, also never used
Yes.
to charge it initially. But then Book My Show started charging convenience fee. Similar format, we also thought of charging convenience fee. Initially, we get you can say feedback from our own teams that no customer will pay a convenience fee of 200, 250 for just booking a flight or a hotel or a holiday or on a payment gateway. But when we actually launched it, we realized that customers were very okay paying a nominal fee of 200, 250 as a convenience fee. They were pretty fine with it. And even though there was no decline on the bookings, rather, if I look at after demonetization, we actually thought the bookings in holidays will go down. You won't believe the bookings after demonetization actually increased for a lot of us in OTAs, or the the correct channel like Thomas Cook or us, or any offline or online players actually increased. Yes, certain agents would have felt that thing who were dealing majorly in cash, but those who were on a proper, you can say, following the law of the land and following the taxation policies, they actually got a good substantial increase in the bookings, not only flights, hotels, but even for holidays. Yeah, yeah. So before we end, I think the last question which we really wanted to understand from each one of us is what you feel as a customer behavior will change while planning a tour post-COVID. So we
Yes,
have started getting answers. Traveling to rural areas, very right. Contactless services, it has already come up. More emphasis given to remote places, yeah, similar to point one. Avoiding mass tourism, I still believe avoiding mass tourism. If you'll see, even after second wave, the the people or the tourism which was in Himachal Pradesh, I think the video went viral as well
Yes,
of Mall Road in Shimla. Mass tourism, maybe group tours will go a bit slow, but if you look at mass tourism, I truly don't see that happening. There will be a lot of mass tourism to happen. There was a tweet around same time, around 30th of June. On 30th April, there were no beds in hospital. I'm just quoting from somebody's tweet, anonymous, and I'm not quoting from my side. There were on 30th April, there were no beds in the hospital. On 30th of June, there were no beds in the hotel. They were all full, especially Himachal, especially Uttarakhand. Uh, whichever hotels you were calling on 30th of June, even I remember for my close, we working on OTA platforms, we saw a lot of surge because I don't know, it was some long weekend, summer vacations closing down. We saw a lot of bookings happening for Uttarakhand and Himachal and hotels being sold out. So if you look at mass tourism, tourism will continue. Yes, there will be new format, which is contactless services, which is more on homestay, more on rural experiences, more on customized holidays, being very honest, very right. You won't believe the destination priority changed. Maldives is a very big example for us in span of 2 years. It used to be only a honeymoon destination or a couple destination before COVID. Okay. Or I can say 90-10 ratio, wherein 10% families will go and 90% were only couples. In October 2020 onwards, if I have the data till last December, as in 2021 December, the bookings ratio of family to couples or family to honeymooners has become 50-50. Uh, a lot of families have went out and stayed in Maldives as compared to couples. A lot of family and group of families, like friends and families, have gone out and stayed in Maldives. You won't believe we used to be close to top 10 destination for Maldives before COVID. From October till date, we actually outnumbered Russia, we outnumbered Europeans, and we became the top source market for Maldives with 25,000 customers every month from October till date, minimum side. Certain months would have seen 20 to 23, depending upon the wave. Or if I minus the second wave months from April till the month of July, but our numbers have been really always on the upward side of 20 plus into that destination. So COVID, yes, it will change a lot of behavior pattern. Even the thing which a lot of top MDs of the organization mentioned, which was like being very honest, like binge travel or revenge travel will happen. That actually became true for a lot of us. As after the second wave, we saw a lot of bookings happening for domestic hotels. One, after the second wave, we saw customers actually making sure to travel with their families and experience what they were not experiencing earlier, they started experiencing after the second wave. So yeah, a lot of things have changed. Sanitization has become very standard. It will be offered everywhere. Your rooms will be sanitized. Your contactless services will happen. Your food will be served in a proper wrapped manner. We even after first wave, when I was traveling for the first time in the month of July, we actually had a breakfast in the hotel room itself, which was packed properly and sanitized to avoid any contact. Yeah, yeah. There was no buffet or there was no buffet breakfast which were open. But things are opening up and things will open up soon. So yeah.
Okay, so it seems like whatever losses the industry had, it was it was outdone by the revenge tourism concept.
Yeah, especially for hotels, it has done. I will another example if we have time and if people don't want to log out is a small example of Cordelia cruise. If you want, I can share that as well. The cruise was supposed to start in 2019. They happened as a Jalesh, but then they in 2020 they were not able to operate. But 2021 they started their bookings in the month of September, and I think their first sailing was somewhere around. The bookings happened in July, but their first sailing was around um, 15th of September. There were certain ups and downs for that particular initial 2-3 departures, but then the cruise sailed through very well. But if you look at there was a marketing which happened around it, whether you can call it the negative marketing, but the marketing happened. You won't believe the cruise for the month of 15th October or maybe around the Diwali for the whole month of November till December was sold out for certain departures. Imagine sold out. Another example on this cruise itself, I think the cruise had some 66 positive cases on the 28th or 29th December sailing. You won't believe the customers are still ready and they are paying us that we don't mind booking on a cruise holiday, even though we were telling them, sir, we have paused the bookings. The cruise has paused the bookings on 3rd of Jan when I was in Yatra. We were still getting bookings for Cordelia as a product. So look at the customer side of it. They are ready to travel. They are open to travel. It's how good uh, content is being provided to them will help us to generate interest in new products for the customer. So cruise market is another one big thing which is coming up in India.
Okay, thank you so much, Ravi sir. Although our topic was only confined to tour operations, but you have done all around, batting here, and you have answered all the questions, whether they were from your area of expertise or not. But you have, honestly tried to answer them, and it was really nice. I was actually little nervous, to be honest. I am pass out and all this long profile which you have, but you have really cooperated with us very nicely. You have accepted our invitation immediately, and you're the first, in fact, confirmation from resource person's side which we got. Okay, I'm ready, and immediately you send that PPT to me. Like I was also not even no ready to start the preparations for the FDP, but your PPT was there, and you mailed also that please check. So it was amazing. Thank you so much. The kind of contact which Vikas sir has given to us. Thank you, Vikas sir. Uh, Thanks a lot for getting me connected with sir, and obviously to be present here as well today. Thanks a lot, Vikas sir. Think yeah.
Thank you, Rohit. And it's always a pleasure to support all the academic fraternity and the student community. So thank you, Prashant sir, for having this second, the phase 2 of the FDP, which is really nice. Seeing it, I'm following it, and good content, good speakers, and good participants. Thank you, and hope everybody is liking it too. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Thank you,
thanks
Vikas
a
ji.
lot.
Thank you, Raveesh ji. Thank you so much to all of you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
a
you, sir.
lot for
Sir and Rohit sir for such a wonderful
Thank you,
FDP
sir.
and
to be,
for
partic-
it was
Thank
very
you.
wonderful.
to be part of
Thank
this
you.
campaign.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
look forward
Raveesh.
for more such sessions as and when you need me, being very honest.
Definitely, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, Prashant, sir. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for